This is a rock on the planet Mars. If you look closely at the dark specks in the middle, you'll see what may be the preserved remains of ancient Martian life. Or at least, that's the most likely explanation. In September 2025, NASA revealed this discovery, calling it perhaps the clearest evidence of alien life ever found. The sample was collected by the Perseverance rover, and inside it, those dark markings might represent the strongest sign yet that life once existed on another planet. But what exactly about these spots suggests that? The answer is complex, and that's what we're going to unravel. The rock was discovered in Jezero Crater, the landing site of NASA's Perseverance rover, the most advanced robotic explorer ever sent to the Red Planet. NASA chose Jezero for a reason. Billions of years ago, the basin is believed to have held liquid water. Evidence suggests a river once flowed down from the surrounding highlands, cutting a gap in the crater rim and filling it like a lake. Perseverance touched down at the mouth of that river in 2021, the spot scientists thought would give them the best chance of finding signs of past life. It wasn't easy. Perseverance spent 3 years exploring before stumbling upon this odd rock sticking out of the Martian sand. What makes it so remarkable is the repeating dark pattern across its surface. NASA informally named the tiny dots poppy seeds and the larger ones leopard spots. To put it into perspective, even the bigger spots measure only 1 or 2 millimeters wide. That means whatever created them was microscopic, comparable to bacteria or microbial life, too small to be seen directly by the rover. Instead, what Perseverance found is the trace they may have left behind: waste material, a kind of fossilized byproduct of living microbes. In simple terms, this could be ancient Martian microbial poop. Once the strange markings were identified, Perseverance deployed its robotic arm and onboard instruments to investigate. Analysis showed the rock is sedimentary, formed over millions of years as flowing water carried and deposited layers of minerals into a muddy bed. As time passed, the layers compressed under their own weight, and once the river dried up, the mud hardened into stone. On Earth, sedimentary rocks often hold fossils since organic material gets trapped and preserved during the process. What makes this site even more compelling is that it contains some of the youngest sedimentary rocks ever identified on Mars. About 3 billion years old. That widens the potential window for a habitable Mars much later than scientists previously thought. If accurate, it means Earth and Mars may have hosted life at the same time, evolving in remarkably similar ways. Perseverance's operators understood the importance of this find. In July 2024, the rover even captured a self-portrait with the alien rock at its center. A white drill hole is visible, where the rover extracted a core sample that might one day be returned to Earth for deeper study. Meanwhile, the rover's instruments detected something extraordinary inside the leopard spots: 2 iron-based minerals, vivianite and goethite. These are commonly associated with water-rich environments on Earth, and in this context, they could be key evidence of biological activity on ancient Mars. On Earth, we often find these same minerals in patterns very similar to what Perseverance discovered. And when we do, they're almost always linked to microbial life, what we typically call bacteria. Specifically, vivianite and greigite are associated with environments rich in decaying plants and animals. Microbes consume the dead organic matter and in turn leave behind these iron-rich minerals as a kind of byproduct. In a sense, it's micro-waste. It's worth noting that you don't need a whole animal on Mars to support microbes, only the building blocks. That's what bacteria feed on. We call those building blocks organic matter. To put this into perspective, 96% of the human body is made from just 4 essential elements combined in different ways: oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen. We already know Mars contains organic matter, mostly exposed in crater regions where asteroid impacts brought it to the surface. What's striking is that large amounts of organics were also detected inside the very rock covered with the leopard spot pattern. But organics alone don't prove life. That's why the presence of vivianite and greigite is so important. They provide the missing piece. Now we have the ingredients for life and what looks like the byproducts of life. Connect those dots, and it seems we must be looking at evidence of Martian biology, right? Well, not so fast. That's not exactly what NASA is saying. The agency is being very cautious, optimistic, but not definitive, and for good reason. Take, for example, an incident from 1996. US President Bill Clinton announced the discovery of what appeared to be a fossilized microorganism inside a Martian meteorite found in Antarctica. At first glance, it really did look like a tiny worm. But upon closer analysis, the structure was shown to be the result of a non-biological process, simply water interacting with rock in a way that mimicked life. It wasn't an alien, just a strange mineral formation. Something similar happened 20 years earlier, during the Viking missions of 1976, the first American landers on Mars. Scientists at the time were eager to detect Martian microbes. They designed a simple experiment: scoop up a little soil, add water mixed with nutrients, and then monitor for a biological response. If microbes were present, they would eat the nutrients, drink the water, and release byproducts, much like we've been discussing. Specifically, NASA looked for carbon dioxide gas as evidence, and that's exactly what Viking found. After the soil was treated, CO2 was released. For a brief moment, it looked like proof of life, but the excitement faded quickly. Biology wasn't the only explanation. Plenty of non-living chemical reactions can also produce CO2, for instance, mixing vinegar with baking soda. Since Viking found no actual organic matter in the soil, the conclusion was that life wasn't likely. The experiment was ruled inconclusive. That's why NASA is careful today. As the astronomer Carl Sagan famously said on his show, Cosmos, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And that's the standard scientists are holding themselves to. Since the leopard spots were first spotted, researchers worldwide have tried to poke holes in the alien life hypothesis. Just look at the long list of names on the published research paper. This discovery is being tested from every angle. If the evidence stands up under intense scrutiny and no other plausible explanation fits, then it may finally be considered extraordinary. Right now, there are only 2 possible non-biological explanations for the leopard spots. One theory is a high-temperature reaction, that the dark patterns could have formed when extremely hot water, 150 to 200 degrees Celsius, interacted with the rock billions of years ago. But that doesn't match what we know about Mars. Its surface is cold, and there's no evidence that this riverbed ever experienced such extreme heat. In fact, vivianite can only form at low temperatures. If the rock had been exposed to that kind of heat, the vivianite wouldn't have survived. It would have been destroyed. So, this likely didn't happen. Explanation 2 suggests an acidic water reaction, which claims the spots could have formed through long-term exposure to highly acidic liquid. But again, there's no supporting evidence in the rock that it was ever submerged in acid. In fact, scientists also detected a mineral called olivine within the same rock, and olivine cannot exist in an acidic environment. That rules this idea out as well, and that leaves us with alien microbes. In this case, it's the only explanation that hasn't been disproven. By process of elimination, it becomes the most reasonable conclusion, which means, for the first time ever, we can cautiously but confidently say that life probably existed on Mars. And that's mind-blowing. It would imply that life is not unique to Earth. You don't need some extraordinarily rare conditions for it to begin. All you really need are the basic ingredients: liquid water and organic matter. Wherever in the universe those ingredients appear, life is likely to follow. But here's the challenge. We still can't claim this with absolute certainty. The evidence isn't complete. The instruments on Perseverance, while advanced, can only tell us so much. After all, it's a mobile research lab that was launched into space and landed on Mars. It's powerful but not limitless. There are many more tests we could conduct on the leopard spots if we had the samples here on Earth. Unfortunately, we don't. And it could take years, if not decades, before we do, if it ever happens at all. So far, Perseverance has collected 27 rock cores from the Jezero crater and its ancient riverbeds. These samples are sealed in metal tubes and left on the Martian surface, waiting for a future mission to retrieve them. The plan has always been that another rover would gather these tubes, load them into a return vehicle, and send them back to Earth. But Mars sample return is complicated and very costly. Right now, the US government isn't willing to foot the bill for NASA to finish the mission. They'd prefer another partner to share or take on the responsibility. Meanwhile, only one other space agency has ever managed a successful Mars landing: China. And the Chinese have their own Mars sample return mission in development. Scheduled to launch in 2028, it aims to bring Martian rocks back to Earth by 2032. They have both the budget and the technical expertise to potentially pull it off. And now, thanks to Perseverance's discoveries, they also know exactly where to look for the strongest evidence of extraterrestrial life. Of course, in theory, it shouldn't matter who makes the discovery. This is about science, not competition. But in reality, it does matter. This is the kind of science that will reshape everything we believe about life and the universe. And NASA, despite being so close, might watch the first confirmation of alien life slip away. Still, it's crucial to remember, none of this is impossible. The funding exists. What's missing is the collective determination to invest in a project that is difficult, could fail, and will extend well beyond a single election cycle. Perhaps this discovery, the first genuine evidence of extraterrestrial life, will serve as the wake-up call needed to remind decision-makers that NASA science is invaluable and worth supporting. One way or another, the truth is out there. All we have to do is reach for it.